Welcome to the return of Johanna Carroll's Dialogue with Divinity. The conversation continues. In the past, many of us considered a very productive life as living with purpose. However, in today's ever-changing world, Johanna will give us a teaching in this episode of living with intention. Now we bring you our host, international intuitive, author, and spiritual teacher, Johanna Carroll.
Hi, everybody. This is Johanna Carroll, host or hostess or whatever, spiritual mama of Dialogue with Divinity and Metaphysical Talk Radio. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to be discussing living with intention. Wow, that's such a big word in the metaphysical community, Gary. So I wanted to go over this a little bit. So we're going to talk a little bit today about the difference between purpose, intention, being powerful, and being empowered. And I think that these things are really important for us to have some awareness about if we truly believe on some level that in this Aquarian age, we're living within a holographic environment. So what do we mean by that? We know that there's a physical you. We also know, without a doubt, that there is a spiritual you. So we have to take a look at these two worlds. And right now, at this time in history, 2020, little chaotic energy, all the systems going wonky, being redesigned, redefined. We've got 6 retrogrades happening right now. How are we refining our viewpoint of both those worlds on a personal level? Okay, so, Gary, in the 1990s, the word purpose and being and power and powerful and all that was really a lot of part of the landscape of language, if you will, in the metaphysical community.
Yeah, it was.
And right. Okay, I want to know my purpose. So let's just talk about this. First of all, the reason that we take a body, so let's just say our purpose as a spirit for reincarnating or coming back into the flesh is to have experience. And what does that mean? Experience life. We can grow as a person, evolve as a soul. If we sat actually in our home and never talked to anyone, never turned the TV on, the computer, whatever, we'd still be having experience. So we have to kind of take a look at that word right now and what does it mean for us? So in the hologram, we have the reflection of the divine self looking back at us, looking through us, and it's a two-way mirror. So we're doing the same thing from the physical plane of awareness. So we know that we live in the world of the physical. We know the soul has desires. We know that the mind is saying, yeah, but I really want this. And the higher mind is saying, do you really? And then we have the emotional self says, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm feeling. So we've got a lot of things going on at the same time. So when we take a look at this word purpose and we expand it into the hologram, we want to take a look at the word intention. Spiritual intention. However, because the word purpose always seemed to have power, catapulting it into that new stratosphere, in the Aquarian age, we would take a look at that word as being empowered. What's the difference to be empowered with intention or to be powerful with purpose? So, Gary, if I were to say to you, I'm a really powerful person, or I would say I'm an empowered person, what do you think the difference is? I'd just like your opinion.
Okay, the difference between, say that again, empowered and what was the other?
Powerful.
Powerful and empowered.
Right. The diff. What's the diff?
I think that's a semantical question, because if you're powerful, you're powerful. If you're empowered, it's pretty much the same thing.
If you are empowered, it's the age of enlightenment, it's the age of empowerment as well.
Mm-hmm.
So empowerment, well, to me, this is just Johanna. For me, when I think of the word powerful, I think of strong. I think of aggressive. I think
more like a superhero kind of thing, or a Marvel or DC.
Don't get in my way. It's behavioral on some level.
Okay.
But if I'm empowered as a spiritual person, I'm really taking an inward glance at myself. So I kind of feel that the powerful person has the external viewpoint, vision of how am I going to be powerful in the outside world. And the empowered person says, you know what? I just took a nice little journey inside my own self and my own soul. It has nothing to do with the outside world. It has to do with the power of spirit rising within me, owning myself, know thyself, be true to thyself, all those catchphrases that we've heard so many years. So if I am powerful in the external world, I want to know what my purpose in life is. And that's what was happening in the 1990s. So here we are, 30 years later, revisiting that language. I think every age that we live in, every season of our lives, our language changes. And if you are in a robotic situation and you're kind of push, repeat, kind of living on the merry-go-round, we talked about it the last time. In the age that we're in right now, we're either going to repeat or advance. I mean, it's pretty, it's really pretty clear. And in order to do that, we have to move that repetition, karmic repetition. Karma is just unfinished business. So it's doing the same thing over and over again. It's kind of robotic on some level in the external world. So we have to be in the bridge of the present moment to achieve that advancement, or another word is ascension, resurrection, rising above my suffering on some level, personally. That's powerful. So an empowered person says, I'm going to stop repeating what I'm doing. I'm going to stay in the bridge of the present moment. How can I do something differently? What do I need to do to change so that the world around me can change, evolve, and advance? So instead of being a witness and watching, I'm going to be a participant. And so here's the thing. I believe we need both. I believe in the physical world, there needs to be a sense of being powerful. We also need to know ourselves. We need to know as a spiritual person what works, what doesn't work. To thy own self be true. We need to do the right thing. We need to follow the golden rule. The rules have been changing, though, just as this age is changing for us. So 2020 kind of really was a slap in the face from the universe, like, wake up. It's a wake-up call. So if I'm waking up to being empowered, I have to take a look at what my intention is so that I'm not on repeat. I feel that I am evolving to something greater than myself. So here's the other part of it, I believe, that when we said, okay, my initial purpose is to take a life, to reincarnate, to pour that beautiful essence of divinity known as love into my body and have wholeness, body, mind, and spirit, there's really a part of me now that says, where's my service? Not being selfish, where's my service to my own growth, my own evolution? How do I really discover this journey that I'm on that has more fulfillment? It does have purpose. It also has intention. So we have power and purpose, physical self. We have empowered, and we have intention, spiritual self. They have to not only walk side by side, but they have to be holding hands. And so we're in a really interesting age right now. The Dalai Lama said, a positive future cannot emerge from the mind of anger or despair. So does anger and despair keep us stuck in really merging the soul with the self? And it's a really interesting question. So, I sang in church for many, many years, and one of my favorite prayers that we sang was, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. So my question to you, Gary, is we have a wonderful, amazing spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, saying a positive future cannot emerge from the mind of anger or despair. And then we have a beautiful sort of biblical saying, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. The question I have, are we building a wall between the spiritual self and the physical self that really disallows us from them walking hand in hand in partnership with self and soul? And are we just purposely powerful, or are we living with intention from an empowered self? So I guess that's a question to you. Obviously, we know there's, history has really, the sidewalk has risen up and slapped us in the face. Well, and it needs to. I mean, it really sometimes, like I always say, God will slam you into the sidewalk until you get it. Mm-hmm. So it has to do with our level of awareness. So the Dalai Lama also wrote a beautiful book called The Art of Happiness many years ago. I don't know if you read it, but it's really beautiful. My children actually gave it to me for Christmas one year. And basically the thesis on the book was, you can't grow spiritually if you're not happy. So if we can't grow spiritually if we're not happy, and this doesn't mean, everything is perfect. Happiness is a natural state of the soul. Contentment, peace, joy. So I believe in that book he was telling us that our quest for happiness is a quest to discover the intention of our own empowered divine self. I don't mean for this to be a philosophical question, but I do feel it's something that we sort of need to take a look at, because there's a lot going on out in the world right now. So I am very curious as to how you would respond to the statement, a positive future cannot emerge from the mind of anger or despair. How would you respond to that right now? Do you feel there's a lot of anger on the earth right now?
Well, the question that you asked me was about the wall. Is there a wall being built between spirituality and development therein? Or what is short-circuiting us from being empowered or being powerful?
Yeah.
It's you and me have had this conversation before when it comes to religion, but I'll put it to you this way, in sort of a narrative way. Okay. I'll recite these lyrics to you. Okay. And these lyrics went like this. These pricey deals don't teach us. Your freedom doesn't reach us. Enlightenment escapes us. Wow. And awareness doesn't shape us. How can all this trivia take us to the goal you reached? We came here to be like you and find the world that you preach. You know where those words came from?
I'm not sure.
Okay, it's gonna give me a kicker when I tell you.
Okay, good thing I'm sitting down.
The Who's rock opera, Tommy.
Oh, I love that.
And it was reciting, it was Tommy's followers complaining to him about how he became this big cult leader and had this cult following because he was the deaf, dumb, and blind kid that beat the pinball champion. But then all of a sudden, by some miracle cure, he was able to see, speak, and hear. Yep. And he devised a religion around it. So he brought all these people to this camp and had them put corks in their mouths, plugs in their ears, and eye sunglasses over their eyes so they couldn't see, because to be like him was his manifesto, or at least his teaching, in order that they would find the world. But it didn't work. And that's the problem with religion. Religion and its dogma fits people into a cookie cutter or a funnel or into a particular. For example, the Catholic Church is a perfect example of it. When you go to confirmation, it's not like, I'll never forget, my dad said, yeah, I'm going to be confirmed today. I said, Dad, you don't get it. When you go to confirmation, that means that you have taken the final step to conform to the teachings of the Catholic Church.
Interesting. Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, I was raised Catholic, and I never, of course, at that age, confirmation, you're normally 7 years old, I believe, which in a lot of the religions, and by the way, we're not bashing religion, we're just talking about religion, so we like to put our spiritual glasses on and give you another perspective. So even in, the Hebrew religion, when you have, your bar mitzvah, your bat mitzvah, I think a lot of the traditional religions, there's some kind of a ceremony. See, I don't want to use the word that it indoctrinates you. What if it embraces you and welcomes you into the community? Or are you saying that's how they're selling it? I'm just kind of curious. What do you think?
Well, any kind of religion it still has a set pattern. It still has a confirmation or a list of do's and don'ts. It's not true. Really conducive to spirituality. And at the same time, looking at the history of the church, which I finally got the opportunity to do through a 3-hour presentation, takes us through a history of Western Christianity, which goes all through the Byzantine Empire, the Visigoth, the Aryan Empire, all these, and these particular schools of thought gained their influence by way of war. The Byzantines attacked the Aryans attacked the Visigoths, and so forth and so on. So when I look at the history of particularly Western religion, was achieved by way of political agendas and war. So if you want to ask yourself why we have such problems, particularly in this country, why we have such issues as it pertains to spirituality, is because we become devoid to understanding ourselves as individualities, and we have tried to fit ourselves into a framework devised by other men, rather than allowing ourselves to become in tune with nature and the universe, and the forces and the energies above. That's it. That's my answer.
So, but here's the thing. All right, so that's a really good point. However, when we're looking at the different ages, we're looking at Piscean age versus Aquarian age. So we know in terms of the Vedic traditions, those yugas or ages are about 12,000 years each. So we're in a new yuga right now. It's called the Dwarpa, right? It's the age of ascension, resurrection. So let's just put that on hold. So obviously we know that suffering is definitely an optional thing. However, it's not optional for a lot of people. And particularly in the Aquarian age, we want to resurrect or rise above that. And so the aspects, for those of you who are listening, just to remind you, so the Piscean age was fear at a very low frequency level. We have to look at everything like energy and frequency. Science is really finally caught up with spirituality in that regard. So that's good. They're walking hand in hand. So there's an agreement on that. And then we know in the Piscean age was fear, which was exemplified by greed, jealousy. It was all the carnal sins, as they would say in the Catholic tradition anyway. So then we also have to take a look at what are people worshiping right now. So I think we need to take a look at the age of ascension, not from a dogmatic, necessarily religious point of view, although that's part of it. However, I'm not saying say that all religion is bad. I think if you really understand the mysteries and the sacred teachings, which finally are being, I think a lot of people are getting that through their own intention, their own purpose, their own journey to discover the soul and the self. So, and I think a lot of the churches are really, on some level, trying to make that a contemporary subject, which is a good thing because they'd probably lose a lot of their congregation if they didn't. So I think that's good. The other part of it, though, is as an individual, what's the religion that people are really worshiping now? So what have you brought forth from the Aquarian age? Is it materialism? And it doesn't mean you cannot have nice things, by the way. It's worshiping the golden cow, the golden calf. So if you have a powerful belief system and you're very purposeful and you're in that category of the car, the material stuff, the money, the big house, the Prada handbag. Does Prada even make a handbag? I guess they do. I don't know. I'm just odd, to be honest with you, that someone would pay $10,000 for a handbag, but it's
that's
just
ridiculous. Yes,
it's extremism. So we're looking at extremism here. So I think the question we have to ask ourselves, if we're really living with spiritual intention, is it doesn't mean that you have to be poor. It doesn't mean that you have to sell everything you own. However, Gary, it's really interesting. There's a lot of people that are physically wealthy and they're spiritually very poor. So I think that in this age that we're in, and, we've been asked to live in timelessness on some level, which is really saying no more repetition of the negative, fear-based things that are holding you back from discovering your own soul. So I really feel that intention is your spiritual intention. Why are you really here beyond survival? And how are we moving from surviving to thriving? So I think it's a good thought, right? Let's have a little more discussion on that. And we're going to take a short break. We're going to be right back. This is Johanna Carroll. You're listening to Dialogue with Divinity on Metaphysical Talk Radio. Be right back.
This is Gary Purefoy, co-owner and program director of MTR, with a very important announcement. Now, what you've come to know to be Metaphysical Talk Radio over the past several years will soon be changed to Metaphysical Talk Podcasting. Now, we will retain our main feature programs, which is Johanna Carroll's Dialogue with Divinity, the Triple Goddess Moon Hour, the Time to Om Hour, and a new program entitled Metaphysical Talk Forum with Inga Purefoy. Now, the live streaming station of Metaphysical Talk Radio will be replaced by the Unified Arts Radio Network, a program format devoted to celebrating our diversity and the harmonious and unifying exchange between cultures which takes place in the performing arts and entertainment, which has also been known as the universal language. Now, you will still be able to locate our main podcast features on Metaphysical Talk Radio where you've always found them, starting with our main website at metaphysicaltalkradio.com and other podcast distribution platforms. Now, the exact date of this change from Metaphysical Talk Radio to the Unified Arts Radio Network has yet to be determined. However, we encourage you to continue with us, watch this space, and we'd like to thank you for being a part of our listening family and encourage you to continue to do so even in the future when we enter into our new assignment, which will be the Unified Arts Radio Network. Until that time, take care, be safe, and we'll see you soon. Now, Johanna, you're continuing your global prayer and meditation group, which takes place every Sunday. So tell the listeners about that and how they can get engaged.
Yeah, please. I thank you so much. It's really been, we started this in March, sort of, okay, we'll do this for a couple of weeks just to help people out. Well, it's been over 3 months. So it's really, I've had so many people say, it's the highlight of my week, which is wonderful. So what we do is, it's 1 hour long. It's a Zoom sign-in. So you can go to my website, Johanna Carroll. That's JohannaCarroll.com. You can actually listen to one of our sessions. And so what we do, it's a 4-part program. We start out with a spiritual teaching to inspire people, give them food for thought for the week. Then we go into prayer. We go into group meditation. And then we have open discussion. And we've really decided that, it's a small family of less than 30 people that are doing this. I've never really been the type of teacher that wanted to do a classroom kind of environment with hundreds of people. And the reason for that, Gary, is because I wanted to be personal and private and unique. I wanted each person to be there and really get something out of it so they could carry that message and that awareness of spirituality throughout the whole week. So you can find that on my website. Thank you for that.
Okay.
So going back to, and by the way, we've got some great new classes that are going to be coming out in June and July. You will also see all of those posted under Spiritual Seekers, which is a community group and a community school that is online. So please look forward to sharing that as well. We were talking about spiritual intention, living with intention. We're talking about, does confrontation create a wall? So I think we have to take a look at our personal arguments that we're having with ourselves and what are we worshiping? What's our new modality or style of living our life in 2020? And so besides signing up for experience, the soul has a burning desire to share service on some kind of level. Self-love and service is not sacrifice. So I just want to repeat that. Self-love and service is not sacrifice. And it's not you being a victim either in a cognitive sense. So what does that mean? Self-love and service. So first, service is to discover that high-frequency self that exists beyond the physical world. The truth of the matter is, because we know that spirit dwells within, it's really in your physical world, in your physical body. So the universe isn't some, big cloud that's floating out there. It's inside of you. And there's been so much research on DNA and the genomes, and that a very large percentage of that inner voice belongs to spirit. And the functionality of the body, as far as the cells and the DNA, the genomes, all of that, is a smaller percentage, which is really interesting. So we co-created with the universe a wonderful opportunity to have in this age a journey of self-discovery and self-love is not being selfish. Love thyself. Again, when you're taking care of yourself and your soul, that whole oversoul around you is expanding. And so the intention around the pursuit of service is actually, it's a blessing to the community of humanity. We're looking at that right now. We're looking at the community of humanity rather than separate tribes. And so that's called sacred service. So the first sacred service is to know thyself, get off the wheel of repetition. You're in the bridge of the present moment. There may be a wall there. There may be obstacles for you. However, we want to take look at that wall as individual bricks. Each one of those bricks is a thought, an idea. You're not going to erase your consciousness, but you're going to rise it to another level of super consciousness. So if we do that with intention, self-love in service, that is not sacrifice, that is not creating an obstacle, we have an opportunity to really be part of that bridge that's taking us to a new future, which is very elusive sometimes. We can't really see it. So again, let's see the beauty of the present moment in your journey of self-discovery. And that really lends energetically to the intention of your future. So again, when we talk about sacred teachers, I do love the Dalai Lama. I just think he's such an amazing individual soul on the earth. So he says that taking action for the highest and the greatest good of all is really what our true service is. So we can't be selfish. We have to have a journey of self-discovery and self-love. We have to move away from old patterns of behavior that have been holding us back and creating walls where we get angry with ourselves or there's confrontation. You know, we're always having this inner argument. We're always having this inner conversation. And so when we are merging through empowerment, being powerful, having purpose, now intention really is activated. And so this whole pursuit of service is really, really showing up in a lot of community activism that we talked about recently. And a lot of it is like riding a roller coaster. However, change, that is the energy of change. We all want to land on our feet on that bridge in the middle, closer to, as the Hopi prophecies say, 1,000 years of peace, harmony, and spiritual brotherhood for all of us. Are we all going in that direction? No. Will some of us continue to press the repeat button passively? However, I feel that the more that you do that, the more challenging and the more fearful on some level, I have trouble even saying that word, fearful, your life can be. And I don't want to diminish how a lot of you are really trying to survive. And the soul's desire is to take you to a new level of really thriving. So I'd like to give everybody a tool that I think would be helpful that will get you into that bridge so that you can see that the wall comes down and the obstacles that may have been created previously for you are no longer there. Or let's just say now it's a fence maybe that you can climb over. So the obstacles are not so intense. So take a piece of paper and create 3 columns. On the left side, I want you to put at the top of it the past. In the middle, put the present moment. And then on the right column, you're going to put the future. So this is going to take a little bit of time. You can do it with me right now, or you can just put this aside for later. If you do it, make it a sacred event. Light a candle, ring a chime, turn off all the electronics, and just really go down to your soulful self, what is my greatest fear? What is my greatest obstacle? And that's going to go in that left-hand corner. That's your past. So the past is everything you have been right up until this moment. And you may have a list of 20 things, and I'm just going to ask you, what's the one that's bubbling up to the surface? What's the loudest voice that's yelling at you right now? Your greatest fear is. Okay, so write that down. And then on the right side, the future, we have the polarity now of fear and love. Believe in yourself. Believe in the divine, the relationship with spirit. So, Gary, what do you think everyone's biggest fear is right now?
Dying.
Oof. Okay, that's pretty huge.
Really?
Okay.
Look at what's going on with this pandemic. People don't want to die.
Yeah. Okay. So that's really front and center for a lot of people. Also, that a whole way of living is dying as well. So that's a little philosophical. So let's just stay with the basic things. So on the left-hand column, where you've got the past, put the word death or dying, like Gary's saying. Okay. So very simply, the polarity would be living life to the fullest. So, and when you go to your future column, living life to the fullest. But you've got a blank space there, which is right in the middle. That's the bridge of the present moment. And the word that I would really encourage you to write down, we're going to do this together, is write the word transform. So you're on a bridge and now you're looking backwards at your past. How can I transform my belief, my fear of death? And how can I look to the future of living this really vibrant, alive life so that I don't feel every day I've got to be scared about anything that could make me ill? So spiritual transformation is awareness. So we have to take a look at those two worlds that we talked about before. So relative to your physical health, what are you doing? Are you eating correctly? Do you have extremes that are going on that maybe you need to take a look at? Are you eating too much? Is there a lot of sugar? Are you drinking too much? Are you eating drugs? Because it's going to put you right back into that left-hand column. It'll yank you back. Yet the fact that you're even listening to this and doing this process with me says, I really do want to not repeat. I want to be on the bridge of the present moment so I can really thrive and live a fabulous life in the future. So if you're going to transform, the fact that you've even written it down says the desire is there. So the soul has desires. The soul is pushing you onto that bridge. So what's the first step getting you closer to your future? What's the one thing you can change or transform today? What's the one thing that you can do? Maybe it's going for a little walk. Maybe instead of having 2 or 3 drinks a day, I'm going to take a look at that. I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm going to go into awareness. Anything that is not of a natural nature on some level that you deliver to your body is blocking the light. That's your consciousness. It's the consciousness of the soul. So even too many Twinkies will do it. Too much chocolate. Now here's the thing. That bridge in the middle is a conversion factor. And I don't mean religious conversion. I mean spiritual conversion. So because we're talking specifically about what you are delivering to your system health-wise, what can I convert or do differently? So let's just say that I know a lot of people have put a lot of weight on during this lockdown period. I don't know if it's because of boredom or just because they needed to be nurtured. You can convert a sugar-based food to something that's organic, but you'll still get the sense of pleasure and fulfillment. If you're drinking excessive alcohol and you know it's too much, how can you start a reduction program for yourself? And I think one of the wonderful things about this time we're in is so many communities, Gary, have opened up on the internet. There's so many Zoom conferences. I mean, you can type in anything in your browser bar, and there's so much accessibility to really good information that was never available to us, in the ancient times of the Piscean age. We are a global community. We are a global community with a lot of separate tribes, but I really do believe, we're really all being asked by Spirit to be one community of unity through our humanness, connecting with one another. So there's a lot of change going on. Try not to overthink it. This process that I'm giving you could take you an hour, it could take you a day, it could take you a month. It doesn't matter. The fact that whenever you're writing anything down, you want to say it out loud, because sound is the first law of creation. It moves the energy. So you're calling in the divine. You're awakening the divine within you. And so the wall of separation from yourself to your soul starts to become shorter and eventually disappear. So everything that you're writing down, you want to think of that wall. Bricks. Each brick is a different thought, different idea. So when we have a consciousness raising type of situation, you're being asked to not only look at things differently, but to think about them differently as well. So when we talk about this whole energy of intention, your real intention is not just to transform, but to change and to evolve. So you're going to grow as a person and evolve as a soul. And for those of you that are listening, one little thought, one little word, one word spoken after you've written it down, it's going to create a carrier wave of change within you. So I'd really like your intention to be embracing transformation and change, not just for yourself, but all of humanity. And that's a big job. But here's what's so valuable, Gary. I don't think people realize that if they just do one little transformational thing for themselves, that carrier wave, that frequency, that energy, the waves of change affect the entire universe. So we said it so many times before, the science really cannot necessarily tell us where the universe begins or ends, because it's always growing, evolving, changing based on our thoughts, our actions, our words, our deeds. You see how important each one of you are? You really are. You're an instrument of the divine. It's time to refine that. We've got 6 retrogrades going on right now, which sounds hellacious on some level, but one of my Sunday groups said, do you realize that whenever the planets are in retrograde, we have an opportunity to use all the rewords, redefine, revisit, renew, rewind. It's renewal at a very profound level. We're being asked to go within and take a look at that. So this tool that I've given you seems really simple. However, I do want to tell you that there's been so many spiritual teachings over the year. What separates us from our soul? We do. So the desire to reconnect, there's another reword right there. So Gary, with everything that's going on out in the world right now, and we talked about spiritual activism a number of weeks ago, and it's still very, very, it's very prevalent. I am going to ask you a question that's probably related to that, and it does have to do with intention. How do you see the summer evolving for being a historically transformative time for all of our global community? What would you say?
You know, as far as transformation, I'll be perfectly honest with you, Johanna.
Okay.
I'm very skeptical of there being any kind of transformation, which goes along the lines of what I recited earlier in my response to your previous question.
Okay.
We are bombarded by so many voices, whether it be social media,
Yeah.
whether it be on television, cable television, network television, streaming television, and then you have media, which is the reason why we're going in the direction that we're going, because on the media-wise, broadcasting-wise, you either have right or left. But what do you really have that unifies us?
What's in the middle?
Not a whole lot. I mean, NPR used to be very unifying in a sense, but there's been people who have judged it by saying, oh, it's leaning left. So everything that you come across is either left or right. And as long as we maintain that paradigm, it's really going to be difficult to find any transformation. And I'll close by saying this, and this is something that we're going to focus on in my podcast, because it was a very simple statement that years ago, a guy that I worked with, the guy couldn't have had any more than a junior high school education, but he was a hard worker. We were working at Pentel Pens, and he made this comment to me when we were just talking about sociology in general.
Yeah.
And he said something that has stuck with me, because as simple as it may sound, it's really deep. And he said, man, we're just people. We're all just people.
Yeah, it's true.
And if we could just stick to something as simple as that, we have a chance. But that's not the way. It's not the way it is. We can't talk politics without being ready to shed blood.
Well, so there's a lot of anger on the earth right now. So if we're wanting those social systems to transform, where can we transform? And I feel it's our relationship with the divine. It's our spirituality, which I've always said is an umbrella over all religions. That's where the mysteries are. That's where the sacredness is.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are listening, it's disheartening. I understand that. I don't really watch the news that much because, first of all, I don't know what to really to trust on some level. It is very, and of course we're getting ready. We're in an election year, so now the camps are really divided. But remember, this is about the unification of community, not different camps and tribes. That's very Piscean energy. So we have to maybe break up the camp before we can get to the community. So, and it's a metaphor for all of you who are listening. A lot of people are telling me right now, not because they're arguing about politics, but they're cleaning out their karmic closet. Certain groups, certain people, whatever, it just doesn't resonate for me anymore because they're on a quest. They're on a spiritual vision quest to see life differently. That's that bridge. So, transforming the outside world, it's a big job. It's too much for one person. What you can transform, though, is one aspect of your own journey. And so do we see a lot of extremism happening right now? Yeah, we do. The pendulum is definitely hitting a big gong. And so it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call for our global community. We cannot stay the same person in that global community. There's got to be a part of us that maybe is a little open and receptive to different opinions, to seeing not just both sides, but all sides of the equation. So if you have a particular persuasion or viewpoint, I'm really going to ask those of you that are listening, put your spiritual glasses on. Put your hammer down. give yourself a really big hug and ask the divine to be with you. This is something we started in our prayer group months ago. We end every prayer group. It's kind of like we all have a beautiful prayer shawl, and we just hug ourselves individually. We close our eyes, we take a breath, and we say, be with me. Are we asking for something or someone outside of us? Well, everyone in that community knows when one person utters that word, they are calling in the love of everyone in that group. They're also calling in their guides. They're calling in their teachers. They're calling in all the love of the divine that's available to them, which is endless on some level. And so in discovering your divinity, where are you okay to get off the merry-go-round? Repeat, repeat, repeat. Where can you be in the bridge of the present moment for transformation? And I really want to say to all of you, good job. One little thing shifts the consciousness for the entire future. Not just for your future personally. You know, all the great masters that walked on this earth were here not necessarily for us to follow them, but to gain the wisdom from the teachings. So we know that Yeshua, Jesus, was here as a master to teach us love and brotherhood. And it's up for grabs right now again. Buddha was here to teach us wisdom. Wisdom is the voice of the eternal self, your soul. So now we have to take all of the lessons, all of the wisdom, all the brotherly love, all the kindness, and we have to give it to ourselves first. That's not being selfish. It's serving your own soul. Self-love. Get on the bridge of transformation. Give yourself an opportunity to see life a little bit differently. So it's an interesting time. I know a lot of it, Gary, for a lot of people, it's discouraging on some level. And yet, you know, for other people, it's really encouraging. And you know why? They're educating themselves. If they're not educating themselves, someone else is educating them. And really, if you're reaching up, if you're reaching for the divine, that a level of awareness will come. The universe speaks through the voice of others. That's where the wisdom comes from. That's where the brotherhood comes from. That's where the self-love comes from. But you've got to have that conversation with yourself first. That's the dialogue with divinity that we've been talking about for 10 years on this radio show. So it's food for thought for all of you. We really want to thank you for spending time with us today. And we really want you to listen to those words along the way that are intended to really inspire you. So what's the conversation you're having with yourself, with your soul, that's both intentional, purposeful, powerful, and empowering? So this is Johanna Carroll. You're listening to Dialogue with Divinity on Metaphysical Talk radio/podcast environment. And we really want to thank you for being with us today. And more than anything else, thank yourself for showing up in your life. You chose this life. And through the guides and teachers, you really do have an opportunity to have the best life experience possible. So try not to be discouraged. Really give yourself that be with me hug. Know that you're loved. You're cherished by the divine. You truly, truly are. And it's our intention here to really give you an opportunity to connect to this community in a brand new way so that you can live a brand new day. So again, we're sending you love, light, life, peace, power, empowerment, beauty, and intention. And may the light always lead the way. Because more than anything else, your soul is the eternal part of you that's shining a very large light in the universe. So blessed be, have a beautiful day. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.